What's going on, guys? Happy to be back. I got a quick video here I want to share with you. And the question I want to throw at you real quick, the question I want to throw out for you to process and kind of think about is, why preach the gospel? What's the point? What's the purpose of preaching the gospel? Why do we need to go out of our comfort zone? Why do we need to step out on our own and subject ourselves to awkward conversations? St. Francis of Assisi had this great quote. It said, "Preach the gospel always and use words if necessary." I hate that quote. I can't stand it because it's really made for a group of people who don't want to share the gospel and just want to live their own lives in such a way that is reflective of it, hoping that somebody will eventually ask the question. We all know the quote, right? Coaches throw it at us all the time. Potential kills coaches. The potential for somebody to come to you and ask you, why do you act so differently? Why do you not get drunk? How come you don't swear? Why do you work so hard? All of those are great things, and those are things that should naturally flow out of our lives and our relationship with Jesus, but those are not the sole indicators or the sole objects that we use to preach the gospel. So why? Why would we preach the gospel? Let me just be real with you guys for a second, okay? I have a young man that I used to work with at Costco who's no longer with us. He's moved on to something else. A lot of the guys and I have a suspicion that this gentleman has moved on to other things that may eventually destroy his life. And it's hard for me, as a Christian, as a man, to hear something like that happening in somebody's life. I've had plenty of friends accidentally overdose, unsaved, good, morally sound people who have accidentally overdosed and lost their life. And though they were good people and great people and fun to be around, they're still unsaved and they don't know who Jesus is. And this last summer I had a chance and I was sitting down with this young man and it was right on the tip of my tongue. It was right there, and I'm like, I didn't ask it. I was waiting for somebody else to come into the picture so I could launch into the question. But the question on my lips was, do you want to have a relationship with Jesus that will guarantee your entry to heaven? And it never came out of my mouth. I never said it. I never asked the question. I allowed fear to get in the way, and I didn't go for the spiritual throat like I normally would have. Now this individual isn't around anymore, and I don't know where they're at or what's going on in their lives. I don't know if this is a road to destruction for this individual, if there's a million things that run through my head when I think about it. But the reality is this: I didn't preach the gospel well enough with my words. I lived it in my life, but they still didn't pick up on that. It has to be our words. Why preach the gospel? Because not preaching the gospel is the most cruel and horrific thing that we cannot do to a person. Did you catch that? And I'll say it again. Why preach the gospel? Because not preaching the gospel is the most cruel and horrific thing that we can do, that we cannot do for another person. You understand? Like, if a person doesn't know God and they leave this place, they never have salvation. They never have peace. They never know love. They're never introduced face to face with the personification of love. That's why we preach the gospel. We preach the gospel because souls, people's very eternal resting place, their soul is on the line. That man, that woman that you work with every day, that individual that you see that you don't know anything about, their very soul is on the line. And it could be up to you. It could be up to what you say to them. It could be up to you. You don't want to pass them in the two lines, one into heaven and one out of heaven, and have them look at you and ask you, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me about this God? Preach the gospel, guys. Make it awkward. Let it be painful, whatever, but preach the gospel. Leave no one untold.